So when you ask a question like how to know the self, or if there is a process to know the self, how will you know consciousness? Think and see. The Upanishads themselves, they give such expressions of the nature of consciousness, arupam, adrishyam, agrahyam, achakshushrotram, which means it cannot be known either through the senses nor through the mind.
What is the process of knowing the self?
You don't require a lighted lamp to see another lamp, another lighted lamp. Do you require? No. So this is an example given in Atmahod by Shankaracharya himself. He says, see, a lighted lamp is self-effulgent. You don't require another lighted lamp to reveal it. So also the self is ever self-effulgent. You don't require a process to reveal it.
What is the insight? The insight you're talking about, how do we know that we have got it?
See, exactly the human mind does this. It starts tasting the fruits of life. The sweet fruit is there, then you're happy for some time. And then a bitter fruit, and then you feel, what is this? Then you look up, oh wow, that state is possible for me. So like this, with these experiences, he keeps hopping closer and closer to the higher world. Aha moment. When you just know.
What is the reality? What is the criteria of reality in it? It is so obvious, Mataji, that he does it.
Om Bhuvaswaha Tansavitunuvarengyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimani Dhiyo Yona Prachodayad. Om.
Namaste, Mataji. We are very happy and we feel blessed to have you here on our podcast today. We have a few questions which I'm sure everybody has on Vedanta. And we would like you to clear our doubts today. So I'm sure the first question, Mataji, is how do we know the self? What is the process of knowing the self?
This is everybody's question. How to know the self? Because when we talk of something like self-knowledge, self is not an object of perception or meditation or experiences. It is through the sense that the mind and the senses also are functioning. So how do you know something like this? An entity like that. You can't even call it an entity. See, language is always insufficient. I'm letting you know. In fact, language is very limited. So you cannot exactly know it through language, but we will throw hints. And it is through the practice, it is through meditation and inquiry that you actually know it. So when you ask a question like how to know the self, or if there is a process to know the self, how will you know consciousness? Think and see. The Upanishads themselves, they give such expressions of the nature of consciousness, arupam, adrishyam, agrahyam, achakshushrotram, which means it cannot be known either through the senses nor through the mind. Yato vacho nivartantya prapi manasasaha, which means from where your speech comes away baffled along with the mind. It is that you can't even call it state. But if I use the word state, that consciousness is something like that. It is something which is inexpressible. That is why Neti is the language of the Upanishads. The Upanishads are talking of it in terms of not this, not this. Whatever you can think of, it is not that. Even just like that, you think and say, consciousness. Can I create a picture of it, an image of it in my mind? Can I conceive of it in my mind? I cannot. And not to speak of the senses. It's not an object for the senses to map. So then how do you realize an entity like this? See, the beauty of Vedanta is it throws such tremendous insight to this knowledge. Such, I would say, very clear pointers are there. There is a certain nature of the self which makes it able for us to know it as it is, even without a process. And what is that nature? It is Swayam Prakash, it's called. Swayam Prakash means it is self-effulgent by itself. The only thing which is conscious by itself is the Atman. You just note this. Only thing which is conscious by himself is the Atman. Everything else is functioning as it were on borrowed consciousness. This is there in the Upanishads. Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam nibhati. Which means everything else shines in its light. See, to validate the existence of any object in the world, you require to be a conscious being. It is through consciousness and through your meditation that you are knowing a thing, isn't it?
Right.
So at the heart of your perception is consciousness. At the heart of your meditation also is consciousness. It is you who perceive the thoughts in your mind. Through the presence of the self, you are able to think. So you see, the self itself is Swayam Prakash. It is self-luminous, self-effulgent, and that is why we are able to detect its presence. You see, self is not to be attained or to be acquired. It is to be recognized and realized because it is already there. It is ever brightly shining in your heart as your consciousness. Through it, you are knowing anything of this world. So then the way to know it, to know the self, becomes you just follow the trail of the luminosity of your awareness. I am self-aware. We are all conscious, self-aware entities. What is this awareness? This kind of an inquiry. What is the nature of this awareness? What is its source? What is the seat of my very meditation and perception? If I can track this, and because it is self-luminous and self-effulgent by itself, you see, you won't actually even require a process. Actually speaking, in Advaita Vedanta, they will tell you this, you don't require a process to know the self. All you require is intense clarity of mind. You inquire, and with the clarity born of a lot of sadhana, then you will know it. So you know it as it were in a flash, instantaneously. In the winking of an eye, you know it. Because it is ever-present reality. You know, Nisargadatta Maharaj used to say this very beautifully. He used to say, there is no way to the self, because there is no place for a way. It is so close to you, it is verily you, that there is no place for a path to it, so there is no process to it. It is instantaneous knowledge. If you are ripe enough, just the inquiry will take you into it. See, this is the nature of Advaita Vedanta. That's why they not even talk of processes and all that. They don't even talk of sadhana. Because at the point of realization, it is just a recognition of already existing consciousness. And just like you don't require a lighted lamp to see another lighted lamp. Do you require? No. So this is the example given in Atma Bodh by Shankaracharya himself. He says, see, a lighted lamp is self-effulgent. You don't require another lighted lamp to reveal it. So also the self is ever self-effulgent. You don't require a process to reveal it. Already existing shining entity. You don't require something else to, reveal it. You don't require a torch to reveal the sun, do you? No. Because the sun is self-effulgent. It is shedding that amount of light which charges even your torches, so that you can see it if you want to. So this is the nature of the self. This being so, the only way is the inward turned mind and exceptional power of inquiry and steadiness of mind. That is all that is required to know the self. But let me tell you one more thing. If the self is to be known like this, the capacity of inquiry in the mind, so a super equilibrium mind is required. Pointed inquiry and great steadiness of inquiry, which means steadiness of mind, is required for this, no doubt. And then the truth is unraveled from within. Knowledge of the self. See, we are using the generic word of knowledge. There are very specific terms in Sanskrit. This what you can call samvit or prajna or jnana. The insight, the moment of insight, when you exactly know the self. That is a supremely sacred moment when you know the nature of consciousness without deliberation, without a thought process. So there is no process to it. When there is no thought process required, obviously there is no other process to it. You just know at that point. It is self-revelation. That is the nature of the self. I can read you a very beautiful passage. See, just hear this passage from Arunachala Ashtakam. It is throwing great light. Raman Maharshi is saying this, thou art thyself the one being, ever aware as the self-luminous heart, In thee, there is a mysterious power, a Shakti, which without thee is nothing. From it proceeds the phantom of the mind, emitting its latent subtle darkness, which, illumined by the light of consciousness reflected on them, appear within as thoughts, whirling in the vortices of Pravrajika, later developing into the psychic worlds and projected outwardly as the material world, transformed into concrete objects which are magnified by the outgoing senses and move about like pictures in a cinema show. Visible or invisible, O yield of grace, without thee they are nothing. It's a hymn to Annachala.
That's beautiful.
Yes, and so see, great light he's throwing here on the nature of the self, how it illumines the entire process of knowing from within. So actually, how may you use a process to know it? You can only know it by insight. You can, when Vivekananda was asked, how do you know the self? He would say, in a flash, in the winking of an eye. Such expressions are used, which means at the point of knowing, it's an aha moment, when you just know, not exactly through a process. And that is why you see, we carry on a sadhana only to bring clarity of mind, only to remove the obstacles to this knowing, self-knowledge. You may ask, what is the nature of the obstacles here? The nature of the obstacle is the tendencies of our mind, our memories. They can impinge into this inquiry and deflect our attention. This can't happen. And for this reason, purification of mind or purification of memory, all this is prescribed. But at the moment of knowing, you actually don't require anything. You just know. And it is a knowledge which you will never lose. Because it is pramya, it is instantaneous realization. And that is the glory of Vedanta, Reality is ever as it is. I have to open up to it. There's a very beautiful analogy to this in the Murarka Upanishad. See, in the Murarka Upanishad, they talk of Dva Suparna Samuja Sakhaya Samanam Riksham Parishesujate. They are drawing an analogy of two birds of beautiful plumage, sitting on the same tree but on different branches. So the bird sitting on the lower branch of a tree, that is eating the bittersweet fruits around it and pecking at the fruits around it. And from time to time, it looks up and sees a higher bird which is sitting on a higher branch of the tree. And that higher bird is self-effulgent, luminous, radiant, and as it were deeply absorbed within itself. And it is not pecking at any fruit. Now this bird from time to time gazes at that bird, the higher bird, and thinks, oh wow, I wish I was like that. I wish I had that kind of a deep inner absorption and radiance which he has. But he can't do it as yet. So he is busy pecking at the fruits around him, pecking at the sweet fruit, and then he is happy. Then suddenly he picks at the sour fruit or bitter fruit, and then he feels very bad. Then again he looks at the bird. Wow, look at him. I wish I was like that. And then he hops to a branch little closer to the higher bird. But again there are luscious fruits around him. So he starts tasting those fruits. See, exactly the human mind does this. It starts tasting the fruits of life. The sweet fruit is there, then you're happy for some time. And then a bitter fruit, then you feel, what is this? Then you look up, oh wow, that state, it's possible for me. So like this, with these experiences, he keeps hopping closer and closer to the higher bird. Then the story is so beautiful. It says, finally he manages to hop right onto the branch where the higher bird is sitting. As soon as he gets close to the bird, and yet for a bird which is real, he sees that it is he himself. There are no two birds. He himself has become that. And he realizes, I only was that Jivatman, picking at the fruits of life and trying to get the most out of it, trying to get enjoyment there, and admiring self-knowledge. And I myself progressed to self-knowledge in this manner by discerning, discriminating, by vairagya, by looking at a self-effulgent one. And then, now I realize I myself am Brahman, I myself am that. This will bring state of Turiya. the state of self-knowledge, self-consciousness. You can't even use the word self-consciousness. Full knowledge of self. That is our very own real nature, waiting to manifest. We are strongly identified with body and mind, and we think we are the lower bird. So when he realizes, at the moment of realization, he knows, you see, Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. He knows he is the higher bird. It's such a beautiful analogy. It's a nice. There are no two birds. Only one bird. The whole point in Vedanta is, you see, this Jivatman, the Paramatman itself decided to play and became the Jivatman, became the lower bird, you can say, and forgot that he's the higher bird and started picking at the fruits of life. And after a lot of, understanding its nature, the nature of life and sweet and sour fruits and all that, he decided that, I need the knowledge of the self. I need the knowledge of the Atman. And he hopped up. And finally he realizes that he is really that which he is seeking. They are not two different things. So these kind of beautiful parables, you can say, analogies are there with the Upanishad to show us, even now, right here, right now, our very nature is that. It is not different from that. Only train the mind in such a way that you will see this clearly. At the point of realization, really there is no process involved. So if you ask me how to know the self, I will say, when till the moment of insight, follow a prakriya. At the moment of insight, there is no prakriya. But to sustain that insight, you require the samskars born of that prakriya. So sadhana is always important. But at the point of realization, nothing is required.
Mataji, that was a very profound explanation, and I'm sure we all of us have got it, I think, a little bit to some extent. And the story also was so beautifully explained. And so, Mataji, that comes to the next question, which is, what is the insight? The insight you're talking about, how do we know that we have got it?
Oh, beautiful. What is the nature of an insight? Insight means instantaneous knowledge. At that moment, you have not deliberated also upon it. You just hit upon it. How do you get an insight? See, I told you, Vivekananda would say, in the winking of an eye, in a flash, you know it. It is that instantaneous. Now, at the point of insight, you should know there is no process involved. It is not due to any process. I can give you an example from the Mandukya Karika. I can give an example from that. See, please remember this. The self is not an object to be attained or acquired through a process. It is ever present, ever existent reality. Just now, right here, it is there. So anybody who recognizes it in the here and now. And he realizes it. Realization means what? It is already there. I didn't see it for so long, but now I saw it. That is realization. So that is the way you get it. Like, see, in Mandukya Karika, it's a very profound work, Mandukya Karika, of Gaudapada. So he's the teacher of Shankaracharya. And there is Shankar Bhashya on Gaudapad, this Mandukya Karika. On Gaudapad's work, which is Mandukya Karika. So there, what an exceptional insight. I will give you an example of an insight. See, there are these three states we experience every day, universally, all of us. Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. Yes. That is the focus of the Mandukya Upanishad, actually. The three states of waking, dream, and deep sleep. Now, in Mandukya Upanishad and in the Upanishads in general, the consciousness experiencing each particular state is given a different name. Like the waker is called Vishwa. The dreamer is called Tejasa. And the deep sleeper is called Prajna. Three different names are given because, these three are quite independent of each other. Okay. Yes, your dreaming self is quite independent from your waking self. For these reasons, they are given three different names. Now, this Vishwa, Tejasa, and Prajna, which is the waker, dreamer, and deep sleeper, the Upanishad is telling us the self is not these three. It is the fourth, as it were, Turiya. It is neither the Vishwa nor Taijasa nor Prajna, it is the Turiya. So does that mean to say now Turiya is a fourth something quite separate from this? Or is it the underlying reality of Vishwa, Tejasa, Prajna? The undercurrent of consciousness which expresses as baker, dreamer, deep sleeper. How would you describe it? So you see the fundamental insight which the Karika throws here, Lodapad, the ultimate Vedanta. See, he says that actually speaking, only Turiya is. It manifests as the baker in the waking state, as the dreamer in the dream state, and as the deep sleeper in the sleep state. Only Turiya is. And when you shed the upadhis of Vishwa, Tejasa and Prana, you see it is only Turiya which is manifesting as the waker in the waking state, giving you. So these are the three states of mind. Jagrat, Swapna and Sushupti. They are giving you that particular state because Turiya is manifesting as Vishwa, as Tejasa in dream state and as Prajna in deep sleep state. So due to this, because Turiya is then not the underlying current of all the three states even, it manifests as Vishwa, Tejasa and Prajna. See, this is called a fundamental insight. It ties together, it organizes a huge amount of knowledge and throws a fundamental insight into the real nature of things. So, how do you come to the realization of Turiya then? If you ask a question like this, when Vishwa sheds his upadhis, he will see his Turiya. This shedding of upadhis and the revelation of Turiya are not two successive processes as the use of language may seem to imply. They are simultaneous processes. When Vishwa sheds his upadhis, he will be found to be the Turiya. When Tejasa sheds his upadhis, he will be found to be Turiya. When Prajna sheds his upadhis, he will be found to be Turiya. Again, I'll repeat, the shedding of the upadhis and the revelation of Turiya are not two successive events in space and time, as our use of language seems to imply. They are simultaneous events. So that is why insight is simultaneous knowledge. It is instantaneous knowledge. It happens immediately. There is no time lag in it. And also there is no space for a way or a process or a path to it. This is the actual fact. In some supreme moment of realization, you understand this. Until then, we are always thinking in terms of time and space and causation because, thinking with my mind. Here, there's no mind. At that supreme moment of realization, you have gone beyond mind. So, there is no process. So, this can only be known by the grace of God, I will say, when you attain a moment of supreme clarity. Insight is instantaneous knowledge. That is why you see no praman will satisfy this condition. No praman can give you to this knowledge. For the simple reason, you will use a praman only when the object under investigation is object. It is separate from you. There's a subject-object relationship between the knower and the known. There's no subject-object relationship there. It is the source of your very perception, source of your very meditation. You cannot have an objective relationship with it. For that simple reason, no praman can be employed. We have this enormous study of pramans, methods of knowledge. We have it in all philosophies. Science entirely relies on pratyaksha praman. What I can see, that is real. Vedanta will say what you can see cannot be real because it's highly mediated knowledge. The very process of seeing is reflecting the truth of what is being seen. Brahman alone is, you see, the fact is, even when you're seeing a table, now suppose we are seeing that table there, it is only wood you're seeing. Your mind thinks of a table. Your mind gives you the thought you're seeing a table. Actually speaking, you're seeing only wood. So also we are only seeing Brahman, only perceiving Brahman, only interacting with Brahman, only living in Brahman. But we think we are, due to the interference of the mind, we think we are living in the world with its problems, with its agonies, with its joys, and we are trying to search for the self. So the vision of a Brahmajnani is the most clarified vision. He sees things as they are, and we are seeing through the lens of a deeply conditioned mind, which is giving us this dual perception. This much at least they should understand. We are in ignorance. And the reality is that good drishti. That is why the only change required to be done is to be able to sharpen our process of inquiry. See, to get into the real spirit of the insight, you require sadhana. And to sustain it also, you require sadhana. But at the point of knowledge, nothing is required. No process is required. No pramad is required. This is insight.
So initially, Mataji, a lot of sadhana is required to begin with.
Yeah, well, your own mind will tell you that it requires to be clarified. It requires, for this penetration to become possible, you require sadhana, definitely. That's why sadhana is of the nature of removing obstacles to this insight. Isn't it?
Right.
So how do you then make up your own sadhana? How do you get this kind of a immediate knowledge, instantaneous insight? So for that, you apply whatever process is required. But at the point of realization, truly there is no process. But to sustain this insight, which means knowledge is perpetual, it's continuous. It is the only continuum actually of your existence, consciousness. To sustain this, you require, again, the sanskars born of sadhana. Otherwise, even this can vanish after some time. The cloud of ignorance can come back. So yes, the life in Vedanta is a life of sadhana, no doubt. But the point of knowing is independent of everything.
So Mataji, the irony is it's so close to us, yes, we are not aware of it.
Exactly. It is closer than the God you are thinking of. It is closer than anything imaginable. It is very being you. It is through consciousness that you are thinking and planning and trying to do sadhana and doing all these things. So it is that close. When something is like that, it is the very subject, not the subjective, it's the very subject who is trying to do it. Then you see that there's no process involved there. This is the actual great insight of Advaita Vedanta.
Right.
That is why it is the charam, it's the culmination of Vedanta.
I think we are getting it, Mataji, now. Now, Mataji, one more question. Mataji, this is one of the best discussions I've ever had and one of the most profound broadcasts ever. And we're getting so much of knowledge and insight with Mataji. So we would like to thank her once again. Mataji, thank you for joining us. And there's another question I would like to put to you, Mataji. What is the reality? What is the criteria of reality in Vedanta?
Yes, this is another beautiful question. So how do you know something is real? In Vedanta, we have a threefold criteria. One is the real is always changeless. It ever is as it is. It does not change. If you now suppose I say the Atman alone is real. This entire personality keeps changing, but the consciousness does not change. Now think and see how true this is.
Yes.
The body is constantly changing. The mind is constantly changing. Everything about the body-mind complex keeps changing. The world of objects, of course, is changing. Samsara, it is samsara. But there is one thing which does not change. The witness of the body is not changing. The witness of the mind, the thought process is not changing. Check this out and see right now. That which is the witness of everything happening around it. The sakshi, the witness consciousness does not change. That is, you can say the fulcrum around which everything is, the pivot around which everything is zooming around.
Right.
So this is the first criteria in Vedanta, that it must be changeless in itself. And not just it is changeless, it is self-luminous. It is Swayam Prakash, I told you. The only thing that is, you can't call it a thing also, but still something we have to say, which is conscious by itself and renders things conscious around it, which means everything borrows consciousness from it and becomes conscious, and the body-mind complex. That centerpiece, that source of your being is only the Atman, only the self. This also you can find out just if you check it. Turn the mind inward and find out if this is true or not. So you see, this is the first criteria of reality. The second is, the second criterion I would say is that it is eternal. That doesn't mean it is for all time. It means time is in it. It goes beyond time. Because mind and self actually have no relationship. The self, by its very nature, turiya, it is relationless, it is conditionless, it is causeless, and it is non-dual consciousness. So actually speaking, it has no connection to mind. So suppose I say something like it is eternal. It means I've already accepted time, the fact of time. But time is only an epistemic limit of the mind. This being beyond mind, the self being beyond mind, you can't even say it is eternal. It is just ever-existent reality, self-luminous reality. So if saying something like it is eternal and it is everywhere, all these also are, you are applying the limitations of the mind to the self in a way. So all that can be said about it is that is why it is as it is. It is pure consciousness itself, and with absolutely no relation to anything. In that sense, it is eternal and ever with pure being as it is. And then the third criteria of reality in Vedanta is it is abhadita, which means it is unnegatable in any state of being, any state of the mind. You cannot negate the presence of consciousness. See, suppose you say, I don't believe in the Atman, or something like this. I don't believe in Brahman. You are doing it in your own consciousness. You're saying it through your consciousness and in your consciousness. Please see this. We are not thinking of consciousness. We are thinking in consciousness. We are thinking of consciousness in consciousness. So fundamental is it a part of our being, of our existence, that your entire thought process through which you know objects is happening in it. So when that is why it cannot be negated. You don't require something, the nod of your mind or your intelligence to posit the self. The presence of the self is making your mind function, your intelligence sparkle, your body function as it does. I am the world of objects spread out around you. That is also the self. Which means it is a reflection of the same self, completely objective to the self. An extension of your own being. You see, consciousness creates its own object, beginning with the mind and the body and the world around it. It is creating its own object. So when you see, this is the glory of Vedanta. It is pinning down reality as it is. And it is available to a enlightened intelligence. If the intellect is very clear, you will see this. It is really abhadita. It is unnegatable in any frame of reference, in any state of the mind, in any state of your being, consciousness. It is unnegatable. It cannot be removed. You see, the characteristics of your mind are negatable. Depending on your mood, the mind keeps changing. The thoughts in your mind keep changing. According to the gunas, the thoughts keep changing. The emotions keep changing, isn't it? Everything else can be negated. The body, consciousness of the body. You're hardly conscious of the body unless you're made conscious of it. So anything can be negated, but not the presence of consciousness. And that is why no proof also is required for the presence of consciousness, because it is not validated by any other thing. You don't require a lamp to show you the presence of another lighted lamp. The light of the first lamp itself will show you that it exists. So also is consciousness. It cannot be negated by any experience, by anything in the world, by any frame of reference. And that is why it is abhadita. It is the ever-present truth of existence. To know it, all that you require to do is to get the capacity to be it. Right. And that is the way to know it.
Thank you, Mataji, for so much clarity. It is such a difficult subject, Mataji, Advaita Vedanta, and you put it so easily. And
No, let me tell you, it is not difficult. Once you get a feel for it, I'm telling you, once you are able to see it as it is, and originally by yourself, you will see it's the simplest thing. It is the most obvious thing. It is the fact of my existence. That's why actually, you see, Advait Vedanta teachers will always keep telling you, it's the most obvious thing. You know how Vivekananda described it? He said, it is putting truth as simply as it can be put. Everything else is complicated because you're putting it through the mind.
Right.
And the mind, according to its gunas, according to its ramifications, or you can say according to its tendencies, you are seeing things and interpreting them. The entire world, objective world, is an interpretation of the mind. But the reality has no complications, absolutely. It is ever there as it is and unnegatable under any circumstance. So all you need to do is generate the required insight. It is sulabha. It is the easiest, most obvious truth of life, actually, Sri.
It is so obvious, Mataji, that we miss it.
Exactly, if you can say that.
So thank you so much, Mataji, for such immense clarity. And I'm sure we benefit from this and looking forward to many more podcasts like this. Thank you so much, Keith, from now.